Yes. And today we have a government that is not investing in our kids. Senator Warren has spoken a lot about how our government invested in her generation and how she has made that one of her priorities under a Warren administration. Yes. Absolutely. So rather than invest in kids and their education, we have a president who has created a concentration camp at the border. We have 5-year-old kids still in fenced cages today as I speak. And every single person in this room here today, you all have a voice that you can use in this election season. Those little kids do not. I am here to ask that the reason that you're here, I hope, is partly because of motivation and inspiration. We want to do better. This administration has made decisions out of fear. We here cannot use fear in this election season. We cannot fear electing the first woman president. That's right. Yes, exactly. So I want to ask you all a very, very important question, and that is, do you choose to be a bystander this election season, or will you fight alongside Elizabeth Warren? Yes. Yes, exactly. And I want us to channel that motivation, that inspiration into firm action. We cannot sit this one out. We cannot sit this one out. Yes. Yep. Yes. Yes. So many of you here today have a ballot in your mailbox or on your kitchen table. You are being asked a very important question, which is, who do you vote to be the next Democratic nominee by March 10th? Yes. 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 That is the answer. Yes, that is the answer. Yes, there are still many undecided voters in Washington state. There's likely many undecided voters potentially in this room. We need to have these very important, critical conversations about why and so with that in mind, I want to ask everyone here to please take out your cell phones, and I'm going to ask that you text one word, Washington, to 24477. That is our campaign number, and that is Washington to 24477. That's going to send you a link to events nearest you. We ask that you support this campaign, that you attend an event, and that you have these conversations with each other, with your neighbors, with your family, about why you will be voting in this election season and removing that occupant from the White House. Yes. We also have staff in this entire room with clipboards, ready to sign you up for an event. Please sign up. Please come and join us in this fight. We need you now more than ever. Please come join.
His shot is super glitchy.
So I'm gonna ask you this.
I don't reached out to Justin. I guess it's something with his camera.
Yeah, I don't know if there's anything you can do about it.
This just has not been
Not been the smoothest ride.
No, I'm joking. I joke. Senator Warren is sitting back there listening. Yeah. So I want her to hear everyone in this room. When I say, let's have her hear this. When I say dream big, I want you all to say fight hard. Dream big. Fight hard. Dream big. Fight hard. Dream big. Fight hard. Let's go get this election for Senator Warren. Thank you all so much.
Please welcome to the stage Luis Carbajal.
Good evening, Seattle. It is my privilege to be here with you all tonight on this fine evening. A little bit about myself. I am a father. I am a partner. I am a community organizer. I am a campaign volunteer, and I am an Army veteran. I am up here because me and my son have been attending or running events from Seattle to Bremerton to Bellevue to Auburn to Renton to Federal Way to Lakewood to DuPont. And we will continue. We are so motivated because we have a presidential candidate who understands part of a military family. She understands the difficulty and how tense it is to have your family members be overseas and not know whether they get to come home in one piece or at all. She has policies that help support veterans after they transition, before they transition, support their families. She understands veterans, and there are veterans that are activated all across the city, across the county, across the state, across the country. And I want you to hear it from me. No party owns patriotism. Part of being up here means I get to share a little bit of myself, a little bit of why I'm so engaged, a little bit of my story. And that takes place here when I was 16 years old. I was a young senior in high school. As everybody is talking about what school they're gonna go to, what they're gonna major in, I didn't have that same feeling of excitement or happiness. I didn't know where I was gonna go. I didn't know what I was going to do. To me, there were just two paths laid out before me. One, juggle dead-end jobs and try to go to community college, or go to university and accrue tens of thousands of dollars in debt. As days turned to weeks and weeks turned to months, another option opened itself up. An option where I get college tuition, an option where I get to serve my country, an option where I get to save money and earn life skills. But there was a catch. You see, when I was 16, it was 2003, and we had just kicked off the Iraq War. And so I had no illusions of what entering service would mean. It would mean that I would be going to combat. It would mean that I would be placing myself in harm's way on behalf of my country to serve myself, my community, and my family. Woo! As I wrestled with what my choices lie before me, I didn't know what I wanted. The bleakness of dead-end jobs, debt that I couldn't surmount, or knowing that I would be going to war. Halfway through my senior year, I decided that the choice was clear. The easiest path for success, the easiest path for my future was to enlist and get everything that I need to try it again in a few years. So a few weeks after I turned 17, I raised my right hand and I swore into the military service. A few weeks before I turned 18, I had orders in hand to go overseas. I made a decision as a 16-year-old, one to change my life, and I made a big choice, and there are families out here right now making a similar choice. 16-year-olds should not have to make the choice that war is easier than a higher education. War should not be easier than entering the job force. I served 3 combat tours in Afghanistan. I was honorably discharged. I battled with the VA. I battled with my own body. I couch surfed for far too long, and it took too long to find gainful employment. We need a government that uplifts all people and gives everybody an equitable chance at a successful life. And Seattle, we have just the candidate to do it, Elizabeth Warren. She's got the smart, she's got the policy, and she knows when to dig her heels in. That's why there are veterans, military family members activating all across the state, all across the country. We are here, we are progressive, and it is our time. So I ask you all today, tonight, connect with each other, engage, inspire, volunteer, vote, and volunteer some more. March 10th is right around the corner, and it is our time. It is on us to make a difference in this country. I love you, Seattle. Let's do this.
Bite your lip and take the trip. Though there may be wet road ahead and you cannot slip, just move on up. For peace you'll find into the steeple of beautiful people where there's only one kind. So hush not, child, and don't cry. Your folks might understand you by and by. Move on up and keep on wishing. Remember your dream is your only scheme, so keep on pushing. Take nothing less than the supreme best. Do not obey rumors people say, but you can pass the test. Just move on up to a greater day. With just a little faith, if you put your mind to it, you can surely do it.
I wake up, well, I know I'm gonna be the man who wakes up next to you. When I go out, yeah, I know I'm gonna be the man who goes along with you. If I get drunk, well, I know I'm gonna be the man who gets drunk next to you. And if I haver, yeah, I know I'm gonna be the man who's havering to you. But I would walk 500 miles and I would walk 500 more just to be the man who walked 1,000 miles to fall down at your door. When I'm walking, yes, I know I'm gonna be the man who's working hard for you. And when the money comes in for the work I do, I'll pass almost every penny on to you. When I come home, oh, I know I'm gonna be the man who comes back home to you.
Please welcome to the stage Toshiko Hasegawa.
Hello, Seattle. To quote Lil Wayne, sorry for the wait. But I would like to open with an acknowledgement that February is Black History Month in the United States. The dream of a nation was built off the backs and the subjugation of Black people in this country. And I'd like to use this platform to honor our Black brothers and sisters here tonight. Seattle, my name is Toshiko Grace Hasegawa, and I have the distinguished honor of introducing the woman of the hour, our candidate for the presidency of the United States of America, Elizabeth Warren. No. I'm gonna put some context about the reason why we are all here tonight. Well, I'm a Beacon Hill girl. I was born and raised in Seattle. I'm a fourth generation Japanese American. My father is a Teamster. He had the largest truckers union in the United States, and he taught me that it is solidarity that wins us our victories. My mother, a mental health professional. She's the type of person where you look into her eyes and you are seen by her. And she taught me that there's no greater medicine than compassion, than fundamental human connection. And when I was hungry for mentorship, it was my community who lifted me up and empowered me to lead with the humility of a servant so that I might appear before you here today in a personal capacity, not only as the youngest director in the history of my agency, which is the Washington State Commission on Asian Pacific American Affairs, but consequently, as one of the youngest women of color ever to serve as a member of the governor's cabinet here in Washington State. And we recognize this achievement as a shared achievement because as a woman, as a person of color, any rights, any privilege that I enjoy today is the direct result of the sacrifice of somebody who came before. And if we want to continue to have a more representative democracy, then we need to persist. We have to stand up. We have
to speak out. And we need to vote in Washington State's presidential primary election for Elizabeth Warren. Because representation matters. And we know you don't get what you don't fight for. Washington State is one of the most diverse states in the Union. Asian Pacific Americans alone come from over 40 different countries around the world. We speak more than 100 languages and 1,000 dialects. We are not a monolith. And Senator Warren knows that we deserve to be seen and we deserve to be heard. We deserve to be served by our government. And that's why she has the plan for the federal disaggregation of data. And she understands that it is exactly our diversity that makes Washington and the United States strong. And I think that it must be said, this week marks the 78th anniversary of the signing of Executive Order 9066, by which President Franklin D. Roosevelt ordered the mass incarceration and indefinite detention of over 120,000 people of Japanese ancestry, most of whom were children. And our communities today do not deserve to be forcibly removed from their homes or locked in cages at the border. We deserve an immigration system that is both fair and welcoming, like the one Elizabeth has a plan for. And she knows none of us deserve to be forced out of our homes because we can't make rent working 2 jobs, or crushed under stifling student loan debt. And nobody's mama should have to wait months for cancer treatment because they don't have quality access to quality health care. Elizabeth is the candidate with a plan to put into action so that all of us might perform a more perfect union. And we, the people, we are the rising tide of justice, and we will stand in lockstep solidarity with a candidate who implores us to keep our promises to ourselves and our posterity. The one who inspires us to dream big, dream big, dream big, and win. Seattle, our champion is among us tonight, and I need your help to welcome her to the stage. So put your hands together, stomp your feet, and make some noise for our candidate to be the President of the United States of America. Elizabeth Warren!
Crazy Hello, Seattle. Wow, I think Seattle is ready for some big structural change. And before we get started, I've got a word tonight for Nevada. Thank you for keeping me in the fight. The race has been called. Bernie has won. Congratulations, Bernie. Come on. But I want to tell you something else that's going on. Since Wednesday night, our support has been growing everywhere. Since I stepped on that stage, a 250,000 people have gone to elizabethwarren.com and pitched in their $25. In 3 days, people have contributed $9 million to this campaign. This fight is our fight. So join them. Go to elizabethwarren.com, be part of this fight. That's how we're going to get this done. We have a lot of states to go, and right now I can feel the momentum. So let's stay in this fight. You know, because I'm here in Washington, I want to talk specifically for just a minute at the top about a threat that is coming our way. And it's a big threat, not a tall one, but a big one. Michael Bloomberg. Now this is important to pay attention to now, because he has skipped the first 4 states and he plans to come in on Super Tuesday and immediately afterwards here in Washington, drop hundreds of millions of dollars and buy this election. He argues that he is the safest bet to beat Donald Trump. He's not safe, he's just rich. And here's the problem. He's hiding his taxes. He doesn't want you to see them until after the election. Who knows what lurks there? He has a history now of harassing women and of gender discrimination, and he has defended racist policies like redlining and stop and frisk. So let's think about that. Billionaire who hides his taxes, has a bad history with women, and defends racist policies. Let me just put it this way. We're not substituting one arrogant billionaire for another in 2020. Because here's the thing. Michael Bloomberg is not the safest candidate. Michael Bloomberg is the riskiest candidate for the Democrats because he cannot win against Donald Trump. This election is not for sale. We are going to make this election about democracy, about you. That's what this is about. So understand this, you bet, why I am in this fight. Now look, I am not a lifelong politician, but I am a lifelong fighter. I come by it natural. I was born and raised in Oklahoma. I have 3 much older brothers. I learned early, fight for your place in a family like that. But I'm a kid who watched early on as our family had a lot of ups and downs. And when my daddy got sick, and we went a long, long time without money coming in, I watched. When the family station wagon, we lost it. I listened to my mother cry at nights. And I remember when we were right on the edge of losing our home. And you know what I remember best about that? I remember the day I stood in the doorway and watched as my mother paced back and forth. She had her slip on, her stocking feet, best dress laid out on the bed. She was 50 years old, she'd never worked outside the home, and she was terrified. But we were about on the edge of losing our house. And my mother stood there, she looked at me, she looked at that dress, she looked back at me, she walked over, pulled that dress on, and walked to the Sears Roebuck and got a minimum wage job answering phones. My mother saved our home, and more importantly, she saved our family. She taught me how to fight from an early age, fight for the people you love. And when I wanted to be a school teacher, and my family didn't have the money for a college application, when it looked like there was no chance on earth, I want you to know, I got in there and fought for it. I got to be a special education teacher. I've lived my dream job. I learned to fight early on, but here's the thing. It's not enough just to fight. You got to fight and have a plan to get things done. When the financial crash hit, you remember the one that Michael Bloomberg blamed on African Americans and Latinos. When the financial crash hit, I watched up close and personal as families who thought they'd done everything right lost a home, lost a job, lost all of their savings. I watched people who thought they were solidly middle class suddenly finding out they had nothing, and in fact they were deep in debt, living out of their vans. And I watched as government turned its back on them, as government stood there and said, we got $700 billion to bail out the banks, and we got nothing for families that got cheated. And I saw how wrong it was, and I said, I will get in this fight. This will never happen again in our country. And I don't care who I have to fight to get there. So I had an idea. I had an idea for a plan, for a consumer agency. Now I want to tell you about this agency. It was an idea that just had a basic principle behind it, and that is no one should be able to make a profit by cheating people on mortgages, credit cards, payday loans, and student loans. Sound okay? You shouldn't be able to cheat people because of the color of their skin. You shouldn't be able to cheat people because they're female. You shouldn't be able to cheat people because they're seniors. You shouldn't be able to cheat people because they're students. It was all about just trying to get a level playing field. And I wanted an agency for that. I said, we could do this. Let's put government on the side of the people. So I wasn't in elected office. No. I went down to Washington, D.C., and basically I knocked on doors. And I talked to anybody who'd talked to me. I talked to Democrat, Republican, and I pitched them on this idea. After all, our country was in the middle of the worst economic recession since the Great Depression. And here's what they said to me. I got two answers. First answer from almost everybody was, that's a good idea. You could actually make a difference with that. That is structural change. And the second was, don't even try. Don't even try, because you'll be up against big money. You'll be up against Wall Street. You'll be up against all the Republicans, and heck, you're going to be up against half the Democrats. You'll never get it done. I heard that and I thought, all I can hear them say is, fight harder. Fight harder. Fight harder. Fight harder. So that's what I did. I laid it out. I got groups together, and I want to say the first groups that came in to defend that agency when nobody would talk about it were the unions. Can we say God bless the unions? They fight for working people. The NAACP joined us. They got it. AARP joined us. They got it. Even good old Consumers Union got in it. God. And that's the thing. We built a coalition. We pushed, we pulled, we were noisy, we were quiet. We did what we needed to do. And in 2010, President Obama signed that agency into law. The banks said it would never get done. At one point, they were spending $1 million a day lobbying against them. But here's the thing, just a bunch of people getting organized, having a plan. We beat the banks and we won. And why does it matter? That little agency has now forced the banks to return more than $12 billion directly to people they cheated. So I learned 2 lessons from that in Washington, not being a politician. The first one I learned is you don't get what you don't fight for. And the second is we can make government work for the people. We can do this. So yeah, I am a fighter, but I am a fighter who gets things done. And right now, we got a lot that we need to get done. It is time for a wealth tax in America. It is time to take on the fight against climate change. We need a Green New Deal and a Blue New Deal. It is time to take on gun violence in this country. And it is time to create a pathway to citizenship for all of our people. These are fundamental values that all progressives support. But the question has to be not just what we fight for, but what is our plan to get it done? There's no magic wand here. This is going to be about hard work, but it's also going to be about having a strategy. And here's a difference. People ask me about differences between Bernie and me. I want to point out one big one, and that is you want to get something done. Bernie says we're going to keep the filibuster. I say Mitch McConnell is not going to get a veto over what we want to do. Yep. Look at it this way. If we keep the filibuster, everything we need to get done has to pass a 60-vote threshold. That gives a veto to Mitch McConnell, to the Republicans, to the gun industry, to the oil industry, to the billionaires. I say we go to Washington to do the people's business. If Mitch McConnell gets in the way, get rid of the filibuster and let's go. Because understand this, I'm not in this fight to talk about change. I am in this fight to make change. Let's do some questions. We got some folks who have questions. I want to make sure, we got our questions over here. What a spotlight and everything. So let's do some questions and then we will get to that all-important selfie line. All righty. Hi.
Hi. So my question is, what is your advice for young women fighting?
Tell me your name. First tell me your name.
May Kramer.
Hi, May. May?
Hi. Yes.
It's good to see you, May. So ask me your question.
All right, so what is your advice to young women fighting sexism in high school and college communities?
To persist. You know, here's the thing, May. I know it's hard out there. I get asked this question over and over about, do you think you face sexism in running for president? And there are only two answers, and they're both bad. The first one is, yeah. In which case everybody says, oh, whiner. And the second is to say, oh, no, in which case at least every other woman looks at you and thinks, what planet is she living on, right? So look, it's there. And so you start by just acknowledging it. And that kind of has a way of strengthening your heart. And then you remember that no matter how many times you're told to sit down, to be quiet, in no matter how many different ways, that you're strong, your worth, and that what you are fighting for is important. So stand up, and no matter what comes your way, promise me, you will persist. You gonna do that, May? You're gonna do this. That's great. All righty, who we got next? Hi.
Hi, I'm Rena.
Rena?
Rena, yeah.
Rena, it's good to see you.
Good to see you too. So we've seen a lot of aggression and hate and hostility towards immigrants, especially under the Trump administration. So my question to you is, how are you going to fix the situation at the border and just combat the unwarranted aggression that we've seen from ICE agents towards immigrant families?
Okay, that's a great question. Thank you. So let's just start. I always think it's good on these to start with a statement of our values. Immigration does not make this country weaker. Immigration makes this country stronger. We need to expand legal immigration. We need a pathway to citizenship, not just for dreamers. We need a pathway to citizenship for the 11 million people who are here, who are our friends, our neighbors, who are working. These are our people. But keep in mind, there's a reason that much of this has been stirred up lately. And that is, Donald Trump has a strategy. His strategy is hate. It's to turn people against people in this country. Turn white against black and brown. Turn straight against gay and trans, particularly against trans. Turn Christians against Muslims. Turn everyone against immigrants. Because what Donald Trump hopes is that if we're spending our time fighting each other, no one will notice that he and his corrupt family and his corrupt buddies are stealing the wealth and dignity of this country. Leadership starts in the White House. And what I will do from the White House is I will lead an America that values every single human being. I will lead the fight for immigration laws to be changed in this country, for a path to citizenship, but I will also lead by example, by the good people who are invited to the White House, the people who get their pictures taken, the people who get their stories told, the people who will serve in my administration, because I will have an administration that looks like the rest of America. I believe in the worth of every single human being. And as your president, I will lift up the voices of those who have been left behind. I will make us a stronger nation. I will be the president who will be a part of the heart of every human being. That's why we're here. Thank you. Thank you. It's a great question. Hi.
Hi. My name is Sherry Simonson.
Hi, Sherry.
Hi.
It's good to see you.
Thank you for coming to Seattle, first
Oh,
of all.
I love being in Seattle.
So much. So, when you are nominated,
I love this already.
what will you look for in a running mate?
Whoa. So, I gotta say, there are some really good choices out there. Whoa. But, oh, I know. But it would be presumptuous at this moment to talk about it, but what I can do is describe. Is that okay? We're not gonna do names, but I will describe. And that is, I want a partner in this fight. That's it. I'm not looking for political balance or this part of the country or that part of the country. Look, we're in a fight. And this is tough. Look where we are on climate. You know, the thing that scares me the most is every time the scientists go back and collect more data, the problem is worse than we thought it was, and we have less time than we thought we did. We've got to be in these fights all the way. Our children can't put off their pre-K for another 3 or 4 more years. We got to be in the fight to deliver first-rate early childhood education for our babies age 0 to 5. The urgency of the moment is upon us. So what I want is a vice president who's going to be there, shoulder to shoulder with me, someone who believes and someone who is willing to fight. And while I'm at it, because I think you have a right to see this, I'm not only thinking about vice president, I just want to mention a couple of others. I will have a secretary of education who has been a public school teacher. Oh, here's a shocker. A secretary of education who actually believes in public education. A secretary of education who believes that public dollars should stay in public schools. A secretary of education who believes it's time to throw high-stakes tests into the wastebasket. Oh, can I mention another one? And I'm going to have, now this is scary, a head of the Environmental Protection Agency who believes in science. I'm going to have, it's time to cut our defense budget. Can I just be clear on this? I'm going to have a Secretary of Defense who has not spent the last 7 years as a lobbyist for one of the biggest defense contractors. Okay, I'll just mention one more. I could do these all night long. But you're getting the drift here. I'm going to mention one more. And I will have an attorney general who believes in the rule of law. Good. We're going to do this. Oh, we're going to have fun. Hi. Hi, what's your name?
Ellie? Ellie?
Ellie? Mm-hmm. It's nice to see you, Ellie.
Nice to see you too. So when I was reading your plan about climate change, I noticed that you want to make the U.S. almost entirely energy efficient, and I was wondering what you want to implement to create the U.S., make the U.S. very energy efficient.
Okay, great question. So let's start with this. Climate change threatens every living thing on this planet. We have to acknowledge that up front, and we have to understand the urgency of the moment. This is no longer your climate plan versus my climate plan. This is, we got to start moving on the climate front, and we got to move in a lot of directions at once. So let me mention just a few to get us started. And I'm glad you've looked at elizabethwarren.com and seen the climate plan. You know it goes on a lot and a lot and a lot, right? So good for you. I want to start with the fact, yes, we need a Green New Deal. It is not enough. We also need a Blue New Deal. Our oceans, we must protect our oceans. I think of how we're going to approach climate this way. As I said earlier, I believe in science. I want to make a 10-fold increase in our investment in basic science, applied science. We're going to have to innovate our way out of this problem. Now, it's a big investment of resources, but here's the good news. There's an estimated $27 trillion worldwide market coming up for green energy, cleaning up the air, getting carbon out of the air, out of the water, desalination, and much of what is needed has not yet been invented. So here's the big bet I want to place. We make a big investment in science, and then we say, you can build whatever comes out of that science, but you got to build it here in the United States and create those manufacturing jobs here. Millions of jobs, good union jobs, right here in America. Second part I want to mention around climate. We cannot talk about climate change without also talking about climate justice. The United States has permitted for decades and decades and decades polluting factories, toxic waste dumps to be located in or near communities of color and tribal nations over and over and over. The consequences are felt in the health of babies, in the health of seniors, and also in the economy. Who wants to buy a home or live near an area where you can't breathe the air and you can't drink the water? So I commit $1 trillion to cleaning up the messes we have made in Black communities, in brown communities, in Native communities. Clean it up. That is our obligation. This is the fight we must have, but understand this. It goes back to the point I made earlier, and I just want to tie it in. Think about this. We've known about climate change now for decades. They called it global warming 30 years ago, but they had the science. They knew basically what was happening. So why didn't we make change? And the answer is corruption in Washington, D.C. And I got a plan for that. The first plan I want to push through Washington, through Congress, is the anti-corruption plan to undercut the influence of money on our government. I'll just give you a taste of what this plan is about. This plan is so terrific. It's huge because the influence of money is huge. But let me just give you a little taste of it. Part 1, end lobbying as we know it. Part 2, block the revolving door between Washington and Wall Street. And Part 3, you really want to hose some corruption out of Washington? Make every single person who wants to run for federal office put their tax returns online. We want to make real change on climate. We want to fight the existential threat. Then we need to fight the corruption and we need to get rid of the filibuster. That's what it's going to take. Thank you. We're going to do this. We got to do this for Ellie. All right. What's that? Yes. We're playing with microphone over there. Yeah. We need another mic. I love you too.
All right, Senator, here we are.
Great.
This will be our last question of the evening.
Oh, okay. All right, last question.
Is that, you hear me okay?
I can hear you just fine.
You want to hold it? Okay. So I got to thank you.
Tell me your name.
Gene.
Hi, Gene.
Hi. Got to thank you because I personally benefited from the CPD.
Yay!
I was chosen randomly in case anyone wonders. So it is so brilliant. I hope people contemplate the importance where few individuals can take on even just a mistake done by a big bank or a financial industry. I believe the financial industry is important to the economy, but yet everyone knows you can't have competition in sports if you don't have referees and rules. And no individual can take such a big, so I've benefited from that. So
I'm so glad. Good. And by the way, if any of you out there feel like you've been cheated, go to cfpb.gov. There's actually a really easy to use form that you fill in. They've handled over 1 million complaints. This is about making government work for the people. So we got a testimonial here.
I can tell you the bank moved really fast when they heard from. So my question though is there's a significant minority of our fellow citizens who seem to be enamored with what they call an alternative reality. And I'm interested in what your plan is, if we put it that way, to help them see the destiny of your leadership for America.
Okay. So I thought that was diplomatically put. It makes me think that you have friends who are in that alternate reality. Okay. So I tell you what, let me just go back. Remember how I mentioned I have 3 older brothers? Yeah, all 3 of my brothers are back in Oklahoma. They all went off, they joined the military. Now they're retired, they're all back in Oklahoma. One is a Democrat. Do the math. Right? 2 Republicans, 2 Democrats. And here's the thing. I love all 3 of my brothers. We can do our Democratic Republican talking points. We know exactly what they are, right? And 2 of them can just go at it, and then the other one and I can go back at it. And we can do that across America. We do it on television all the time, right? Do it on the radio all the time, do it on podcasts all the time. We do this all the time. But here's the thing. If you shake that up a little bit and say, let's ask some different questions. I start with how it feels when you know that last year, Amazon, and hold on, Eli Lilly, Halliburton, reported billions of dollars in profits and paid 0 in taxes. That's pretty much what my brothers say too. And that's true whether they're Democrats or Republicans. Because they say, wait a minute, somebody's got to pay to keep the roads paved. Somebody's got to pay. to keep the defense. Somebody's got to pay, and they pay their taxes. They kind of think that rich people and giant corporations ought to be paying their taxes too. So I start there by saying, I was talking about that anti-corruption plan a few minutes ago. The issue of corruption is not just a progressive Democratic issue. It's an issue all Democrats care about, independents care about, and Republicans care about. We run on anti-corruption, we start pulling people together. We get that anti-corruption plan passed, it's good for everybody. Now let me pitch you on one more. That 2-cent wealth tax, who's ready for a 2-cent wealth tax? 2 cents. 2 cents. But here's the fun part. Democrats like a 2-cent wealth tax, and Republicans, a majority of Republicans like a 2-cent wealth tax, because again, they get it. They're getting the short end of the stick. And here's the deal. We use that 2-cent wealth tax to cancel student loan debt for 43 million Americans. That's 43 million Americans who are Americans. It doesn't matter whether they're Democrats or Republicans or independents or libertarians or vegetarians. They're people who get some relief on their debt and get a chance in this life to be able to move out of their mom's house, to be able to save up money for a home, to be able to start a small business, to be able to get a foothold in America's economy. Good for Democrats, good for Republicans. We all pull together on this. And one more I want to mention on this, and that is, after a lifetime of hard work, people are entitled to retire with some dignity, and that means protecting Social Security. I've got a plan to increase Social Security payments and disability payments by $200 a month across the board by only increasing taxes on the top 2% in America. And here's the thing, you know who likes that? Democrats and Republicans. And you know who gets helped by that? Democrats and Republicans. So you ask the question about how you start to pull people together. And here's my thinking on this. We get out there and fight for a government, not left, right, not Republican, Democrat, but whether or not we have a government that just works for a handful of rich people and giant corporations, a handful of folks who can hire armies of lobbyists and lawyers, or whether or not we have a government that works for the rest of us. We make that government work for the rest of us. That's how we start to knit this country back together. Start there. Does that work for you? So you guys have been fabulous. I want to thank you. I also want to say I brought family here with me tonight. They'll be working the line. I brought my sweet husband, Bruce, and my son, Alex. Stand up, guys. Just so you know, Alex is the guy who's been my tech support since 2nd grade. It's true. It's true. He now runs his own small business, but he's picked up a new sideline called Support Your Mother when she runs for President of the United States. And also, so you know, Bruce is not the reason that I dropped out of school and got married at 19. Bruce came along in season 2. And I love him every day for it. Thank you. So, it is so good to be here with all of you. I just want to say a word. I love you too. I want to say a word as we close up here because this is such an important moment for us to be together. We've now had 3 years of Donald Trump. But it's beyond that. People are scared. People are afraid. They are afraid for their families. They are afraid for their neighbors. They are afraid for children locked in cages down at our borders. They are afraid for children on lockdown in our public schools. They are afraid for women, afraid for people of color, afraid for LGBTQ people, afraid for trans people, all of whose rights will be up for grabs in this United States Supreme Court. They are afraid for our country, and they are afraid for our planet. And the danger is real. Our democracy hangs in the balance, and you have a decision to make. When there is fear, when there is so much at risk, do we back up? Do we cower, or do we fight back? Me, I'm fighting back. I'm fighting back. Fighting back. Fighting back. Fighting back. Fighting back. Fighting is an act of patriotism. We fought back against a king to build this nation. We fought back against the scourge of slavery to save this union. We fought back against a Great Depression to rebuild our economy. And we fought back against the rise of fascism to protect our democracy. Americans are at their best when we see a problem and we fight back. This is no time for small ideas. This is no time to nibble around the edges. This is no time for talk without action. This is time to have a plan and make big structural change. I'm not running a campaign that has been carefully crafted by consultants. I am not running a campaign that has proposals that are carefully designed not to offend big donors. I passed that stop sign a long time ago. I am running a campaign based on a lifetime of fighting for working families. I am running a campaign from the heart because I believe in you. And I believe in the America that we can build together. I believe in the America where every single person has value. The America where every single child is worth investing in. And the America where people, not money, is the most important part of our democracy. I'm here tonight because I can see that America. I can see it and I believe in it. And if you believe that that America is possible, and if you believe that that America is worth fighting for, then I'm asking you this: get in this fight. Get in this fight. Get in this fight. Get in this fight. Vote for me. Go to ElizabethWarren.com and pitch in some money, volunteer some time, but get in this fight, because understand this: 2020 is the moment in history that you have been called to. The moment in history that will not determine the next 4 years or the next 8 years, but will determine the direction of this country and this earth for generations to come. This moment in history has come to you. This is the moment to choose courage over fear. The moment to choose hope. The moment to dream big, fight hard, and win.
All right, folks, it's that time of the evening. Time for selfies. All right. Thank you all so much for coming and helping us build momentum in this wonderful state. If you're interested in joining us for selfies, my colleague Kevin here flashing his phone light is going to be the start of the line. Again, my colleague Kevin here is going to be the start of the line. If you're ready to just dip out, you're more than welcome to dip out. Young families with young children, please stick around towards the front of the line. We will expedite that process to be